All right, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, episode 5, and this is I've never actually even said the name of the podcast on any of the episodes.
Oh, really?
The name's Gray Space Podcast, but it's my first time announcing it. If anyone didn't know that, but how you doing?
Good.
Yeah,
Stoked to be here.
you just got back from a trip with Jaren and Charlie, who I've had earlier.
Yeah.
On. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was fun. I got to swim during like the private sessions, and then got to shoot from land during some of the publics and everything. But got some cool shots and clips. It's a crazy place.
Yeah, it seems like a sick experience to be able to like do. That's cool that they let you like actually shoot and stuff too and get in the water.
Yeah, they didn't let me swim out during the public sessions, which I was kind of bummed about.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty cool. It's crazy how it's all concrete underneath.
Oh, it's concrete.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have thought it would have been like a rubber covering or something.
They have like little rubber like sealing things along it, but it's mostly concrete. Like I tore my wetsuit a little bit.
Really?
Against like the grain of the concrete.
Oh my god.
And like Jaren got scratched up. Like everybody was getting like banged up.
How deep is it in it?
Where I was, it's like right probably below my hips.
Oh,
like,
so it's not deep at all.
No.
Oh, wow.
There's deeper sections closer to the wall. And so if you're like around there, it can get like stomach level, but it's pretty shallow.
Still, that's not even deep.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing like airs and stuff. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You would think it'd be deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh.
But
interesting.
yeah.
Well, I'm excited to have you on because I frequently tell people you're the most creative person I know. Like truly, I really think you have just a very great creative brain, and like you use it very well for your business and for personal work. And what I wanted to get into first is I would like you to explain what it is you do on a professional level.
Yeah, so
because I think it's a very, very unique niche.
It is.
Thing.
Yeah. So I'm a professional stop motion animator, and all stop motion is basically a ton of photos stitched together, and then it just becomes all animated. But yeah, so I do that. I also do some 3D animation, but it's mostly just all animation work. So yeah, that's basically what I do.
Yeah, and I've actually had the pleasure of working with you for a little bit in the past, and like getting to actually help on projects and see behind the scenes, and it's pretty crazy all that goes into it. And since it is such a unique thing, and not many people even understand what it is or even know what it's going on, like they'll see it on commercials, but they think it's just like a video.
Yeah.
And they don't really kind of process, and that's kind of the beauty of it. But how and why did you get into that?
So back in senior year of high school, so like 2013, I wasn't really planning. You have all your college plans kind of figured out by senior year of high school. And I figured that I wouldn't be a successful artist. Like I thought I was just average at best. And so I was on Vine. That's back when that was huge, like before TikTok. Yeah, so I was on Vine, and I saw this animator. He made this video of this drawing moving around, and kind of when I saw it animating, I saw the erase marks. And then I didn't realize that's what like stop motion was kind of frame by frame. Like, so he was like drawing like each picture like over and over again to make it animated. And so once I realized that's what it was, and I was kind of fascinated by photography at the time too, and I love drawing. So I was just like, okay, let's combine the two. So I started doing these little illustrated animations, and just really simple. I look back at them now and they look horrible, but yeah, so I started doing that, and next thing you know, I was making like 3 animations a day. My parents didn't know about it. Nobody knew what I was doing, except for some friends at school who saw it like on Vine or something. But yeah, I kind of kept it a secret from my parents because I didn't want to come across as like a weirdo, spending this much time on like something just for like to share on social media. So yeah, that's kind of what happened, and then it just kind of became a full-time thing.
Yeah, and because you entered a contest. Was it in college that you entered? Or again, you won the film festival, right?
Yeah, it was the Tribeca Film Festival. It's a pretty big festival up in New York City, and it's like a lot of small filmmakers, some big too. It's a very kind of prestigious event, and they had a like online category, and I ended up getting the audience award where like people voted and they picked like my little animation that I did of like a guy coming out of a pepper shaker or something. Like it is a funny thing, but definitely got some attention from companies, and also even just like the little local press around here in Jacksonville, including like my college and everything. So it was a cool
I'm sure, yeah, that's always fun to be recognized by people who aren't your peers or like your family.
Yeah,
be recognized by an audience who doesn't even know you personally, but just is recognizing you for your work. I feel like that's a very rewarding thing.
Yeah, I kind of just took, yeah, exactly. You kind of get the honest opinion, essentially, right, instead of someone just telling you like everything's great.
Yeah.
And also just to have, especially from like a big city like New York City, to get like a kind of like approval from them. It's cool.
A place that could be considered like the art capital of the country.
Yeah, I mean, basically New York and Los Angeles and maybe Chicago and Miami.
Yeah, those are like...
It's kind of like, the main ones.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Was that a term? So before you enter that contest, was it just for fun making these animations?
Yeah.
Would you say
everything was? Yes. Yeah. I would say everything was for fun. Leading up to that, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was necessarily the turning point for my career, but I ended up getting reached out to by Coca-Cola, which kind of like led me
from that contest.
I wouldn't say from the contest. I think they just came across my work because I was cranking out. I literally was cranking out animations day after day after day after day. Like I was, and, usually the more you put your work out there, and if there's, I guess, commercial interest in it, then you'll get reached out. They find it, but yeah.
So the contest probably like was a big confidence booster, gave you that like desire to like do more, and then companies came to you.
Yeah.
So you didn't even have to reach out to a company in the beginning.
No. Yeah. No.
That's the part that like people don't understand or like might not get is so crazy, because I mean you're technically a freelance artist.
Correct.
Right? Wouldn't you? That's what you consider yourself. Yeah. And to be a freelance artist, it is a grind. And like having to reach out to people, like if you can get to the point where people are just coming to you, that is like the dream. And like fortunately you've been able to have that, what it seems like, from the start.
Yeah, that's been the biggest blessing, because I do see artists struggle a lot with that, because it's hard to reach out to companies. And I've even done it, like if I see a company that I really want to work with, then I will reach out to them, and even I will get ignored too. Even though I'm getting reached out, it's like you just got to be able to produce the value for them, I guess. But fortunately from the get-go, I would say starting at Coca-Cola, I did get reached out to by other large companies before then, and they all fell through. So it was kind of, I was seeing something building. Yeah. Because it was Lowe's. I got reached out to by Lowe's to do commercial, like for a campaign for like, I don't remember the campaign. I think it was for Christmas, and they picked someone else, but I started to see like an interest evolve, like kind of coming forth.
Right. Like you started to see that there was a market for this type of thing. Is that like when you were like, oh, I should turn this into a business?
It's funny. Like it kind of just became like, I never had the mindset of making it a business. Like I was still going to school. I was just like, I was planning on going to school for engineering. And so it took a sharp turn there.
Yeah.
But I was still continuing with school. I didn't think there was going to be enough demand for it, because I just didn't think.
It was just kind of for fun. Like it was purely just something you enjoyed to do.
Yeah, which is I think is the best way to go about something. If you're like completely enjoying it, then it turns into a business. It's just like the most amazing thing like ever.
So it just kind of like evolved into this business without you even realizing it.
Yeah, basically. So I got reached out to by Coca-Cola. I ran a TV ad for them. I didn't realize how much they would use it. They used it all over network TV. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was all over. People were texting me saying that they saw like my face, like they had my face was in it, and I did some animation work in it. And then, so it kind of ran its course. And then while that was all airing, I was getting like money that was like allowing me to, because I was working at Publix at the time.
Oh,
I was a bag boy at Publix while this is going down.
While you're also having work like
yeah,
on TV.
yeah. I was a bag boy at Publix, and then and I loved like the little stable income I had going, so I wasn't gonna quit anytime soon. But then the Coke ad like brought in like constant income throughout the whole entire year, and then they moved it from TV to movie theaters, so it played in movie theaters for like a few months.
No way.
Yeah, so like before all the movies and everything.
And how old were you when this was happening?
Oh man, I think I was either 18 or 19.
Holy crap.
19. I was 19. Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
That's so like, is it so cool to like look back and be like, that was such a blessing?
Yes. Yeah. Like I'm so thankful for it, especially because during that year also I got randomly reached out to by an agency where I moved up to New York. They just randomly reached out to me like, hey, you want to work for us? So I was like, okay. And so I lived up in New York for like the summer basically, and met some amazing people, and a lot of them I'm still in contact with today, and they all work like elsewhere in other agencies and stuff. So I formed some like good connections. So that kind of led me to quitting Publix. And so once I came back from New York, I was like, well, might as well. I had like the funds to kind of be able to start pursuing it full time.
That's so crazy to go from bag boy at Publix, doing it for fun, to then being called, then having New York call you and say, hey, we want to bring you up here for the summer. That's a huge shift.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been a wild ride. That's for sure. For the past, I guess it's been 8 years since I've started now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're the only one who is in this business. Like, it's just you. You don't have any other employees. Like, you don't have any bosses or anything. How do you balance your time, since you are the boss, you don't have someone over you? How do you balance like your scheduling, like your life outside of work? How do you stay motivated to do a project, to like stick with it for a certain amount of time?
That's a great question. I recently, I'd say over the past 2 years, I've really restricted my email. Like I don't spend too much time on that. I will usually answer like only in the morning and late afternoon, because if I'm on my email all day, it's just not productive at all. But yeah, I'm a morning person, so I like to shoot like all the animations in the morning, whether that means me waking up at 5 a.m. and getting started. I really like to have the afternoons free, whether it's to go shoot out in the ocean or whatever, be able to hang out with people. But fortunately with the job, it gives me honestly a lot of flexibility with my schedule in general, because I'm not really their employee or anything. So, and They know that I have other clients and everything. So, but yeah, it's not too difficult. I think the hard part is kind of promoting your own business by like me creating like my own personal work, having time to create my own personal stuff.
Right.
Because that's where it gets tricky, I would say. And that's where I just have to be very disciplined and being like, I am going to set time for my personal work, no brand stuff. Like,
right. Because you can't, like on social media, some of the contracts you have, you can't put their stuff on your social media, but you need to promote your talents constantly, especially with how social media is nowadays. You need to constantly be putting yourself out there. And I feel like that would be a struggle when like you spend hours working on a job that you know is making you money, and then like to be like, oh, I got to go do something similar with like a personal job, even though like I just did this all day.
Yeah, the commercial work can definitely, it just takes a lot of mental energy. So it's just that mental energy like bank in your head that it just like absorbs like all of it.
Yeah.
So then you have the personal work, and then you're like trying to allocate some mental energy for that too. So it can be tricky, but I try to make it as like seamless as possible by like planning the day before I shoot. And I also have kind of like a rule with myself to try to come up with like one concept a day, so that I'm not trying to like on the last minute try to come up with ideas for like my personal work or even commercial. I have like notebooks like filled with like old ideas going back to like, I don't know, like like the end of 2019, and I'll go back to those books today, and like if a client wants an idea, sometimes I'll just go back to that book and just pull out an idea. Wow. But like now I have like hundreds of ideas in these notebooks that I can just kind of fall back on.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away the stress element a little bit.
Well, and your point about the mental exertion that it takes to do this type of job is so true, because just in the time that I did it with you, it's like you're trying to solve a puzzle that there's no final picture of. You know what I mean? Like you're having to figure out what pieces are going to work to create something, because it's not simple thing. Like you have to recreate stuff. I mean, we spent time going to Hobby Lobby and Home Depot and like buying random supplies to create objects and to then create motion to create a scene that you wouldn't think of and was made from things that like wouldn't really expect. And that does take like a toll on you mentally. And it was interesting watching you work on it, and it was fun to just literally watch your wheels turn and like figure out how you're going to get to the final step.
Yeah, it's funny with stop motion. You can plan as far ahead as you want, but the minute you go into the shoot, there's always a problem that will arise. It's a frustrating thing, but also keeps the job interesting, because you're always learning just new stuff. I think I've learned the most from these commercial jobs because they tend to be pretty demanding with what they want. And so it kind of forces you to have to like learn things and stuff. But yeah.
Well, so speaking of the commercial projects, what would you say, has there been one that stuck out in the past that was like your hardest, like the most difficult to get through?
That's a good one. That's a good question. There's multiple ones. I would say when I did work with Lowe's back in, I think it was like around 2016 or so. It was shot. I got flown up to New York by a production company, and they brought like 2 other stop motion animators up there to work on other videos at the same time. And basically we were working on these animations with the client behind us, watching us the whole time while we film. Whoa. Yeah, it was, and you know, it's New Yorkers. They're honest. They're going to be honest. Like with like, it's like, it was a big agency. And, so that was, difficult because we went into like 2 a.m, I believe, or 3 a.m. filming, from starting at like, I would say like around like 6 or so, and we went all the way to like 3 a.m. straight, like just constantly working. But especially because you had to get approval with the clients at the same time, and then you had a full crew of people. There's lighting people, there's directors. Well, I guess I was the director, but yeah, I was the director, but then just assistants and stuff. So you're directing like a ton of people. And I was like 20 at the time, and all I knew how to use was a iPhone, I think. And then they pull out a red camera. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. No, they really did pull out a red camera.
You went from 0 to 100 so fast.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know how to work this, but fortunately they have a technician like on set that works it all. So you don't even have to touch the camera.
They're difficult cameras to work. I've used one once, and it was the Komodo, which isn't even that. It's like the small one. It's not even that complicated, but they're a pain. They're not like a very like just turn on, take picture. Like they're hard to use.
Yeah.
I feel like almost having a crew of people would almost be more difficult, especially with something like this where it's so like visionary based and creative, and you have a vision of how you want it to go, and you have an idea of how it should be, and then to try and communicate that to other people sometimes can be extremely difficult.
Yeah, but the good thing about it is that it's a lot of teamwork. And like I grew up like playing sports on teams and stuff like that, and I love the whole teamwork aspect of it, because I'm used to just working kind of alone. You're figuring everything, like everything falls on you. So like having that support and that team to kind of like lift you up and get basically just make the vision come to life. It's pretty cool. Like at the end of the day, you're like, all right, like everybody's happy,
right?
Everybody's like stoked, and it's definitely still cool. I think the studio shoots have still been my favorite, even though they tend to be the hardest. It's like, it's just cool interacting with all these different positions with lighting and everything. But yeah,
it's definitely a big change from doing it like in your home and like just setting everything up versus like having a staff of like
it's
people.
Crazy. Yeah. Some of them, I had one studio job where they're just like, here's the equipment list like that the studio offers. They're like, just pick from whatever. And there's like $50,000 cameras. There's like crazy expensive lighting and like everything. And they're just like, select whatever you need. And it was just like the craziest thing.
And it's wild because to make even the stop motion videos that you make for like these commercial clients, you don't even need that much gear or that expensive of gear, truthfully, because it's not a complicated process. It's just there's a lot of steps that have to go in it. And that was like really surprising to me. I was like, oh, wow, like it's not like the hardest thing. I mean, it's difficult, but you don't need like thousands and $50,000 worth of gear, which was like really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm a pretty like big believer in like not spending it like a ton of money on gear. Because I just always believe like I started out on an iPhone and like a little tiny like tripod, and it launched into a career. And I know that stop motion is unique and it differs with like different creative fields, but like I still use like the cheapest lenses and stuff. Like I still like, I don't know, it's just something about it that I like, but because the quality is just, it's still good. So I'm like, why not? Like, it gets the job done.
Yeah.
I don't get any complaints or anything like that. Everybody's stoked. So
saves you money.
Yeah, it saves me money. But yeah, I have people that will visit the studio space and they're like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm like, yep, that's it. And it's cool. It's cool how it's just like you need just a few things and you can just make something just really cool, like cool animation. That's like, I feel like that's like the power of photography is you don't need a lot to create something like amazing. Mm-hmm. Like I love those, I'm sure you've seen them, those videos of people on Instagram where they'll have like the before picture and it's like this crazy picture and then like what they use is like a water bottle around the lens or something, create a certain flare. It's just like, it's so amazing to see what people can do when they don't even have like that many resources, like, and it's awesome. Yeah, it's really just comes down to the creative concept. Really, like it's like that's really what I get hired for the most part is the concepts. So interesting. Yeah, I would say obviously stop motion is still a huge part, but a lot of the time with my jobs, I'm coming up with the ideas. I would say like 20% of the jobs they already have the concepts, but most of the time I'm coming up with all the ideas. So now, do you have a process of coming up? Because usually you have to come up with like quite a few, right? For like 6 or something. Like yeah. So like at one point, it was crazy. It was 2019, like around the summertime. I had, I think, 3 big clients. It was Apple, Coachella, and then a makeup company like Benefit Cosmetics. One wanted 14 videos. The other, Coachella wanted 11. Apple wanted like 3, but then they wanted behind the scenes too. So I had to come up with around like 40 concepts or something over that period of time just for to have, because they like to have options usually. Right. And so like I try to provide as many as possible. So during that period, I literally came up with like 40 to 50 concepts within like 2 weeks.
And is that something like do you just sit down and just isolate yourself and just kind of like grind them out, or do you like find inspiration like from other things? Like where do you get the ideas from?
So I find a lot of my ideas a lot of my work is kind of based on just like common household items or food or something like that. My inspiration definitely comes around just kind of just the world around me. I don't look at other artists' work for inspiration. I'm sure I've been inspired some like without me realizing it.
Yeah.
But like I don't look at other people's artwork or anything because I actually can't come up with ideas when I look at other people's artwork. But so I avoid that. That helps me just kind of stay focused. And then, yeah, like I just get in a quiet space and I just see how it goes. If they aren't really coming to me, then I'll just take a break and maybe go at it the next day. And then some days they'll be like, I'm just coming up with ideas like left and right. Yeah. And it's like crazy. Like I can come up with like 15 concepts in one day or something, and like legitimate ones that I can pitch. And then other days it'll just be like I can only come up with like 2 or something like that.
Isn't that crazy how the mind, it's just like sometimes it just like fires off and you're just like grab me a pen and paper, and then other days you're like I have nothing. I have nothing.
No, yeah, that's why like I'm kind of mental about like nutrition with that. Like anything like food that's good for the brain, I'm like I like eat a ton of blueberries and stuff like that. Like all that stuff that's like really good for like the brain and getting sleep. Sleep is key. You saw me when I was tired that one time and I was messing up left and right.
Yes, that was and I'd never seen you mess up before. That was wild.
I made stupid mistakes.
I think I noticed something before you did, and you were like, oh crap. Like, what?
I made like four amateur mistakes, and that was just because I only got like 5 hours of sleep or not even.
Yeah, I think it might have been less than that.
Yeah, it was, I don't even know why, but yeah.
But yeah, sleep, it's something that I have become a lot more like aware of and how important it is, because I just feel crappy if I don't have good sleep.
Yeah.
And especially because, and I'm sure this happens to you because you do a lot of like early morning surf photography shoots, which is something I want to get into also. And that's kind of how we met, actually, was through surf photography, probably 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, something like that. But let's talk about that. How did you get into photography in that sense? Because it's completely different.
Yeah, it is very different. So what was kind of bugging me was that I was stuck inside all day, and like I felt like I just wasn't being healthy. And so and photography was kind of boring me. I wasn't into portrait photography or anything like that. So I kind of just wanted something to get like different from stop motion, essentially. And then I ran across Clark Little's work on Instagram, and like saw his like shore break photography, which is insane.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then I saw like his setup, and then I just happened to have like the finances at the time to just go all in. And I grew up going to the beach and everything. I'm from Jacksonville, so I grew up going to the beach, and I always loved like swimming in the ocean and like body surfing the waves and all that. So, and I'm like, okay, I'm a strong swimmer. I'm like, I know photography. Let's just combine the two. And so, yeah, I ended up, I just went all in, bought a new camera, new water housing, everything. And then I went swimming by myself in the middle of winter, 30 degrees out. Wasn't wearing any of the proper gear. Like I didn't know anything, like, cause I don't surf. So, which always surprises people. But yeah, like I don't surf, so I didn't know any of the proper gear or anything. So like I wasn't wearing booties, so my feet were just like absolutely frozen.
Brutal.
I was like running. I had my feet up to the heater in my car and everything. Like
yeah. Oh, I've been there.
But yeah, I was hooked though on that first day. Like I still remember going out. Like I was so hooked, but I didn't plan on photographing surfers, and then it kind of just escalated into.
Well, and you kind of built a pretty big brand around yourself as one of the key surf photographers here in Jacksonville. You know, like you when you say like you have like a lot of people know you kind of as like, oh, he's a surfer, like wave photographer here in Jax.
Yeah, I think that was the beauty with the stop motion is that it opened up my schedule, so I was able to just be out there all the time.
Right.
Anytime there was a swell, I would be out there. So I think that's just how, because I think at the time it was really like Connor Cornell. He was
Logan,
like the main, Logan. But there really wasn't as many guys as there is now, I'd say.
Well, I'd say then it was more of a niche thing also, because you had to have a nice camera and you had to have an expensive water housing, and those weren't as common. So like there were a few things you had to like get that were very like activity specific. So there wasn't a lot of people that would do it. That's interesting. You like have done two very niche things in a creative space. You know, like a lot of people like do like photography, a lot of people make like videos, but like you did unique parts of each of those.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I've always wondered why I got like drawn to both these things. I never thought I'd be doing stop motion in high school. I never thought I'd be doing surf photography either. And who knows what's next? But like it's cool. It's cool how the mind works and everything with that.
Well, so since you do both, do you think one translates to another? Do you think they help each other out at all? Like, do you think about things differently when doing both of them?
Yeah, I think they kind of coincide like really nicely. Because I've always loved nature, and I think it's a huge inspiration is just nature. I think it's so important to just get outside and just, observe your surroundings.
Right.
And I think being out in the ocean, in some ways, I don't know how, but I just always feel like I'm refreshed, ready to go. Like I'm thinking kind of like creatively differently with it. So I think it just kind of switches my mind one way, kind of lets my mind rest from the stop motion, and then I can go to stop motion, and then it just kind of goes like vice versa. And yeah.
Well, that's interesting because so like you play golf now, and Charlie plays golf, and I asked him one time, and he's like obviously a great surfer and athlete, and I asked him, I was like, what's the deal with surfers playing golf? Like why is that a thing? And he said he thinks it's surfing is a very like high adrenaline, high action sport, and golf is something that's very like chill and relax and allows your mind kind of just like to relax. And so you have like the high intense, but then you can also go do something that relaxes you. So it's like the yin and yang, they like balance each other out. And I would imagine that's kind of what these two, like the stop motion photography, would be like for you.
Yeah, like it's a stop motion. It's kind of like it can be pretty calming. Like even though you're solving a ton of problems and stuff, like you're kind of just sitting there. Then once you go out in the water, you can go out and big surf and
you
can be like,
you
can be tossed around and everything, and it gets the adrenaline going. But
so they can go back and forth actually.
Yeah. It's kind of similar with golf and surfing. Golf kind of stresses me out though too.
I've never been good at it. It's a big
mental game. I feel like I'm mentally like just I'm pretty bad, but
but so one thing that always interested me about your surf photography in particular, when I found it on Instagram, is your editing style is very unique. You definitely have like darker tones and colors to yours, and it's more contrasted and very detail focused. And I was wondering, why is that? Like, why do you edit that way? Do you think about those shots in that way before you take them, or is it just something the way that you like the way they look?
I think sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I can edit this and make this like look like, especially if there's like a storm in the summer,
right?
Like a cool storm coming through with like someone like doing an air. I'm like, oh man, I can edit this to be like really like moody and cool. A lot of time though, like it's just I don't even really think about the editing. I'm just like there to shoot, get the shots, and then see. I usually will think about the editing sometimes while I'm shooting, if it's like sunrise or something like that, where the colors are like pretty crazy, or like storms and all that, or rainbows, like all that. I'll sometimes think about editing, but in general, it's pretty. I I kind of just shoot out there and see what I can get. And yeah.
Yeah, well, and I was curious because there's quite a few photographers here in Jacksonville who are in the surf scene, and I think I could pretty much tell you who took a shot just based on their editing style, because I think all of us have like a different editing style. Mm-hmm. Some are obviously very more dramatic than others, aka Adam King. Like I think anyone would know who his is.
Yeah.
But it always just makes me wonder, because I wonder if like the edit style is a reflection of someone's personality, like why they do it the way they do. You know what I mean? Because there's no right or wrong way of editing a picture. It's just some are very different. Yeah,
I think it's kind of like because like my stop motion work, it's very like bright, colorful. Like
yeah, it is. That's what I was gonna say. It's very vibrant.
Yeah, it's like very colorful, and I think I just love the contrast with the photography that I do and how I edit it, by kind of doing more neutral tones and not as saturated. And like I just have an appreciation for that side of it too. So I guess I kind of like it all, but
yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah. It's cool that you are able to do two different like color palettes basically for those two bodies of work. And I was wondering if you edit the pictures for the surf photography, because like for like the commercial work, let's say like you kind of need to do it that way, like you need to do it bright and vibrant, and like you aren't able to create it like a dark and moody tone, but like you can do that with your photography, so it's like a chance to like do the art that way. No, I honestly do think that's what it is, because I've gone with more neutral color palette with my animation work. Then the client will be like, what the heck? We want colorful. We want your like colorful work. I'm like, oh man, I'm sick of doing this colorful like stuff. But yeah, so sometimes it's refreshing to be able to use those like colors and everything, because I can't really use it with my work in general, like with commercials, because they all want the colorful and bright, because it's kind of my style. So and I still love doing it. Like I still love all the color. But yeah, it's always nice to be able to get those neutrals in. Yeah, it's cool when you can freely like express like how you want to do it. And it's funny also, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like with Instagram especially, I'm super OCD, and so like I get really OCD about like the colors on my page, like on my feed, and like how it all lines up. And if you look at yours is like perfect. Like everything is like are you OCD?
I used to be. I don't care as much now. I just think it happens to work out that way.
It works out perfectly.
Maybe it's just in my mind. I'm unaware that I'm OCD, but I do like to have things looking right. So I think it's more just natural. I don't even notice that I'm doing it, but because working with clients like all the time, you just become the most nitpicky.
I'm sure,
because they'll pick out if you have one small flaw in your video, especially with like big campaigns and stuff where they're putting a lot of money behind it. It's like everything has to be like precise.
Well, I mean, I definitely saw that when we would be working on some big stuff. You're like, oh no, we need to like redo it because that corner or that like whatever, like if it's not lined up right, it's done.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean, it makes sense, but it's
because they like, especially when there's chances that it'll be on like huge billboards, like where it's like you see everything in the video, like it's not like watching it on your iPhone or anything, because the huge billboards are like massive. So
and you've had work on big billboards in Times Square pretty recently, right?
Yeah, I've been in Times Square, I believe 4 times now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And all the brands have been generous with putting my name on it too at the same time.
That's cool. That's really that's awesome.
So nice and cool. And I've noticed a shift, at least for me, and I've noticed it with other artists, is that brands are starting to want artists' names on things.
Why is that?
I think they like the messaging that comes across, that they're supporting like a small artist or even just an artist in general. And because people like that, like it's pretty kind of like supporting the little guy.
Like people like people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that mean yeah.
It's just like when companies like will donate to charities and stuff, or like they do like the ads like donating proceeds to this or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of the same idea.
And it does no negative harm to them to
no,
put your name on it.
Yeah, and it just adds. It also just kind of adds like a artistic kind of like creative value to it. Like it's like an artist signature. Like it's
good point. Yeah.
It's
like in a museum or something. Like
yeah. Because if like a painting doesn't have a signature, then it's like, who painted this? Like it's like
right.
And then the worth isn't like really there. So
that is so interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, at least that's what I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
but they have a lot of money and research and all that, so
they're good at their job.
Yeah, they know, they have the resources to know every little thing about us. So,
oh my gosh, dude! After, like, have you seen the Social Dilemma documentary? Yeah. I watched it just like, I know it's been out for a while, and I recently watched it like a month ago, and whew, it's crazy.
It's heavy stuff. It's definitely gotten way. Social media has gotten way worse now than what it was back in the day.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you about that. Being someone that all of your work, a lot of it is shown through social media, and you have to devote a lot of time to social media to continue to grow your brand. Have you seen a shift in the way social media works?
It's very... because everything used to be kind of chronological back in the day, and it wasn't as... they didn't have AI like filtering through everything as much.
Yeah.
And so now it's all algorithm, all that AI driven. So it's basically now I kind of just stopped caring because it's like whatever Instagram wants to feature. It's like, because that's like how it is. Like sometimes a piece that I create won't do well at all, and then the next one will just blow up, even though it's like the same idea or something like that. It's like impossible to predict, so it's just like you can just drive yourself crazy if you constantly think about it. So because you have no control really. It's all just computers. That's like,
well, and I was talking with another photographer friend of mine who he has a pretty big profile, like over 30,000 followers on Instagram, which is pretty big for like a freelance artist. And he was saying nowadays it's pretty much like impossible to grow your Instagram like organically. Like, and even the past few months, I noticed a shift from, I would get like at least 800 likes on a picture or something, right? Like up to like 1,200, and I was like stoked, like it was really firing. And now it like won't even go above like 300, and like they're the same quality pictures, same type of content. It's just like crazy. It's so wild to like, and luckily it happened, like that shift happened at a time when I too stopped like stressing about it, because before, like a year ago, like that would have driven me crazy and it really would have bothered me. But I kind of just realized it's not the end of the world. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just numbers. And it's just, it's kind of comical now just to be like, this is so ridiculous.
It is. It's just something you can't control at all. It's, but it's funny how it all works.
Yeah.
It's impossible to understand.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like there's like influencers on Instagram, like even talk about like how there's the ads on now, like blocks content, and it just like changes like everything, like the way they post, and now it's crazy. Yeah,
like influencers are pretty like intense about all of it, especially the ones over in like LA, and like they're mental about it. But it's fortunately I feel like I've noticed a shift in advertising where following isn't as big of a deal as a creative artist. Obviously, if you're like a socialite or whatever, it's a big deal. But as an artist, I've noticed like I know some other stop motion animators who only have like 3,000 followers or something like that. Like not a lot, and they're doing big commercial jobs everywhere. Yeah. So it's kind of like, as long as you put your work out there and it's good and like brands see it, then you're good to go.
And that's great. Like, I think it should be that way. I think it should be more content based versus following based. You know, like versus just like how many likes they get. It should be more based on like the quality of their work.
Yeah, and brands, I think it varies, but at least with a lot of jobs I've done, it tends to be more quality based than following based. I do get jobs every once in a while because of my following, but and they don't value the quality as much. You do get a few of those. Those used to be like a lot back in the like 5 years ago. I used to get a lot of those where you just create whatever and they're just like awesome.
Wow.
Just post about it or something.
Huh.
But yeah, I do think there's more demand in quality because they're realizing either people are faking their followers or there's a lot of that, or they aren't getting as good engagement and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, to end on a more uplifting note, I was wondering, you've traveled to a bunch of really cool places, like whether it's for like surf photography or just traveling in general, and I was wondering what like your number one spot is that you've gone to, and then also what is a bucket list location to take pictures, let's say.
Yeah. So my favorite place is Norway. I think I've talked to my friends all about it, like to death. Like I just loved it. The people there, we stayed with surfers and everything, and they were just super nice. And the surf was like amazing. Longboard waves for half the trip, shortboard waves, barrels, and all that the second half. So then you got the Northern Lights too.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Yeah. So it's like secluded. You kind of get that element of like camping sort of, and it's nice and quiet. Like you can hear a pin drop outside at night. Like there's not a lot of like wildlife, I guess, because like you don't hear a bug, you don't hear like anything.
Wow.
It's like the most quiet. Like all you hear is your footsteps.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like
that's surreal.
You're not used to it here in Florida because you hear like frogs and like and it's like the craziest thing. So you have like the northern lights above you while it's like super quiet.
And it's cold there too, which you actually like.
Yeah, I like the cold water.
Yeah, you like the cold water, which is crazy, but
hey, it's like an ice bath.
Oh,
good for you.
Yeah. Oh goodness. They do have orcas there though.
They do. I was a little bit worried about them.
Yeah.
A little bit.
that would be something that kind of would be in the back of my mind.
Yeah, because the only escape route, like when it was big and barreling, it's either you swim to the rocks and hope you don't get crushed by a wave against them, or you have to swim like half a mile in or something like that to the shore, like the sand shore. It's way quicker to go on the rocks, but it's like,
ooh, pick your poison.
Yeah, I think I decided to swim the half mile because the waves were like kind of big and like it was so shallow.
Oh man.
So, but I swam the half mile and it was horrible, but it was rough. But yeah, I think a bucket list place. I wanted to go to Australia. I kind of wanted to go to Noosa for the longboard contest that happened before Corona. Well, I guess Corona was starting to happen, and then the WSL still did that event, and then everything got canceled after that. But I want to go there. The longboarding looks pretty sick.
That would be, yeah. Looks like a beautiful place.
But that, or yeah, and then I've been talking about the Aleutian Islands too.
Oh my gosh, dude, you and me, but that would be so wild because it's such a rugged and just absurd place.
Yeah,
but it's like part of the U.S.
I know, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's insane.
You don't have to worry about any kind of weird closures or anything like that. Here, it's like you can just stay in the U.S. And travel, and yeah, I'm hoping to shoot there hopefully in the fall.
Oh, really?
We'll see. I don't know. See how everything goes, but yeah, I think that's hopefully will be the next place.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
but Australia, that would be a cool place to go.
Yeah,
see some kangaroos.
Yeah, some kangaroos.
That would be cool.
The people seem cool there too.
They seem so cool.
I know. They seem.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I met some guys during the WSL tour, the longboard tour. I met like. Those events were so fun to go to because I got to meet, like I photographed like all the world's best longboarders, and from Australia, Hawaii, Brazil, I think there was a Japanese. Yeah. So you just like met people from like all over, and yeah, like I still keep in contact with some of them and everything, and it's just cool. It was the best. That was like the best shooting ever, because after the longboard event, they had a shortboarding event where like all the guys trying to make tour were competing. Right. So it was all like best like shortboarders too that like pulled up, and you're just like shooting out there, just going left and right, like photographing everybody coming at you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a very interesting, very unique career, and thank you so much for talking about it here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.